The fun. No, just kidding. This is I'm No Expert. I'm
You got
Ben.
to get closer if you're
You
going to
gotta
do
get.
that.
Hey everybody, it's I'm No Expert. I'm Ben. Your host, one of your hosts. I'm here with Jason of Prometheus Lights and 4 Sevens, and we are going into the beyond the stratosphere. We're going for it. We're gonna go colonize. We're gonna go colonize some planet. Apparently, we are. Like, the species is going to colonize a planet. I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime. Fight me on that.
Not even the moon, Mars.
Why? But what are we going to do on? Yeah, I guess the moon. In the more recent sci-fi books I've read, like The Expanse, I think they did this. The Expanse was a great series, by the way. I don't know if you
watching
read that.
It now.
Okay, yeah, it's good. It's good to watch, but it's actually really fun to read, and it's written by two guys. I think it's a nom de plume, but for two of the assistants for George R.R. Martin, if I'm getting that right. So these are two guys who are writers who have worked with George R.R. Martin on the Game of Thrones, and then they sort of did this as their own little project, and it's really, really well written. And anyway, I believe
it is filled with interesting commentary. All right, we can talk about The Expanse
we can,
later.
but
believe
the moon,
what?
back to the moon. Yeah. I believe in that in that series, the moon is a station. It's like it's easier to launch ships from the moon than it is to try to get out of our atmosphere to fight that gravity. So it makes sense that we would colonize the moon. And it's also a little weird that we haven't sent people back, right? Since the first fake landing.
Well, I think you nailed it right there. We never went to the moon.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't
Get your tinfoil hats out,
Get
people.
your tinfoil hat. Oh man, I want to believe that we were there. Like, too much effort to fake it. Well, I mean, I guess it's more effort to actually go there than to fake it, than to do a movie about it. But come on, like you've got to have like thousands of people in on it who then don't spill the beans later in life. It just doesn't feel possible. So to me, we've been there. Are we going to colonize it? Anyway, we're putting cart before horse. So I don't even know what we're building here as we fly it, but we're into space. This is what we're talking about. And we are, because Jason pointed out, somehow it completely missed me, but the Starship, Elon Musk's Starship, unsuccessful launch. Apparently he said we were too dumb, was the quote that Elon used, which is very scientific reflection on a failure. And I think that his people are going to they're going to take that and they're going to learn from it.
Do you think they're going to take that the right way? Wait, what were they too dumb about?
I pulled up a headline.
It doesn't matter.
I know,
just take that out of context.
You know what? He knows how to tweet. The man knows how to tweet and get that to go viral. So he also just said he's going to go off Twitter for a while. But probably that's probably the right thing to do, because people love to hate on Elon.
Sometimes you should get off before you get deplatformed.
Yeah,
it's like, probably, I quit. You can't fire me.
Not a bad idea. So we're gonna go to Mars, and I'm gonna hand this over to you. This was your topic. You wanted to talk about space. I'm gonna let you sort of steer this spaceship, and then I'm gonna jump in and just sort of poke holes in whatever it is that you're saying.
Oh, I didn't realize I was going to get promoted to captain. I was kind of happy with the
the back
what's
seat?
The other chair? Any other chair besides that one? I don't know. I like space. There, I'm done. Space is cool. Now, it's one of the great romantic and technological accomplishments of mankind to travel into space. I mean, I think there's this common notion that like people just aren't impressed by that anymore. And I mean, I think when the Apollo missions were going to the moon, like the world would stop and watch TV because you're going to freaking space. Like that is insane. And so, it sort of became more commonplace and people stopped paying attention to it in the same way. So I think one of the interesting things about SpaceX is it's not like people's interest in space is back at the same level that it was before. But I feel like it's reignited a certain amount of interest. Um, so, for example, I subscribe to a couple of, I think, Everyday Astronaut. It's a YouTube channel, and he does lots of space stuff. But so, I mean, one of the reasons I subscribe to it is so that I would know when big events were happening, like Starship launches.
Got it.
So I actually watched the first Starship launch live. I think that was Prototype 8, and it was maybe like a month ago. I'm just trying to remember what happened to the previous ones. I don't know exactly. But on this launch, it was, first of all, the Starship is very large, and they're flying it up to, I don't know, 12 kilometers or something like that. And so those of you on YouTube, yay. Those of you listening to this, just try to imagine my hand motions. So it sits on the launch pad. It shoots straight up at its apogee, I think is what it's called. It loses momentum and stops, and then begins to fall back towards the Earth, tail down. It has these little fins on the front and the back of it, and those fins fold up and sort of turn it into more of a space shuttle kind of glider. But as this thing starts to fall backwards, it rotates until the Starship is horizontal. And then it uses those little fins to push itself back and forth to fly back to the launch pad. But it's mostly just falling out of the sky, completely horizontal to the ground. And the reason it's horizontal is so that you can, have some aerodynamic control. Then, just above the launch pad at the right time, this thing reignites the boosters, flips itself back vertical, in the launch orientation for the landing orientation. And then, like we've seen with the other SpaceX rockets, it lands itself tail down.
In theory.
Now, so yeah, the first launch, the Starship 8 launch, which was the previous one, it cratered into the ground. And I forget exactly what happened. I think it might have lost one of the thrusters or something, but it was not able to arrest its descent. Starship 9 just launched like yesterday or the day before. I did not watch that one. I watched the other one live. And I believe Starship 9 also crashed. I don't know if it was different or not. But, some people are like, oh, you're such an idiot, which apparently maybe Elon agrees with. But that flight profile has never been tried before. So, I mean, I think just the fact that it was even close to working is pretty remarkable. And, people like, this is a test. We do these things to learn and make mistakes so that we can correct them. But it's like, it is so out of the box. And I think that in itself is cool, other than the fact that this ship is supposed to take humans to Mars.
Now,
Mars.
Let me ask you, and because I guess I didn't do my research, but will this ship, the Starship, is going to be what eventually flies all the way to Mars and then lands in this style on Mars?
And
That's
then
sort of why
back.
they're practicing. Okay, because I thought that the previous rockets were just to get payloads up into. Mm-hmm. Okay, out of the atmosphere, and then it's just a reuse thing. It's like over time we're going to save money because we're landing these things and reusing them rather than just letting them fall into the ocean or burn up. But this Starship is what's eventually going to transport our astronauts, the Mars colonists,
and electricians and plumbers and doctors
and potato farmers.
Yeah. Botanists.
Got it. Okay. So we get, we want to get, they want to get this right before they jump on board this thing.
Right. And I mean, that's how, making rockets goes. You got to break a few eggs. So
break a few rockets.
It's insane. But so I'm also forgetting the first crewed Falcon. I think it's the Falcon launch that took astronauts into space for the first time.
For the space station.
Yeah. So we actually watched that live with the kids as well. And part of that is like, my intentional effort to try to like bring the magic of space flight to our children. Cause I mean, and I'm curious to remember or, what your experience was. Cause we kind of grew up in the heyday of the space shuttle, and also the Challenger tragedy. And then, gosh, I am sort of embarrassed that I forget the more recent one where the space shuttle burned up on reentry. But like space flight is not safe and it is not easy.
Yeah, no, Christy McCullough was she was a teacher, and I was in seventh grade, I think it was. And I remember being in a classroom with my classmates, like all huddled around the TV to watch it. And
Yeah.
then, many of us burst into tears, like just
Yeah.
didn't know how to like there was a loss of innocence, I think, for a lot of us, like watching this hero
On live television.
on live television, and then like teachers going, "What have we done?" Who could predict that outcome? But that definitely left an impression, and I think it underscored how uncertain this is and how risky it is. This is what space exploration will continue to be. If we think that we're not going to lose colonists on the way to Mars on these attempts, maybe not the first one, but we're going to lose people. That's
Yeah.
that's a risk that you take, and I think we all have to accept that. That's what exploration is. The folks who came west in wagons,
Oh my gosh.
we lost a lot of them. Anyone undertaken any sort of exploration into the unknown, into uncharted territory, you lose people, you die.
Yeah.
That's a risk. And man, like, credit to those people who were the first to go, and they know it. Like, their eyes are wide open. Christy McCullough knew that this could happen. Like, she might not come back.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine every time you strap yourself to a rocket? Because you have to be thinking about it. You're sitting there and you're like, I hope everything goes all right, but
The
it might
wild thing
not.
is, I would love to look at, like, statistically, well, what like, what are the chances? I mean, we don't think about it, but when we get into a car and put our seatbelt on, there's a risk there. We just, I don't know what the odds are, the difference in the odds there for an accident in a car versus your space shuttle is going to blow up before it exits the atmosphere.
What's the number?
What is that? What is that number?
It's like data from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like
I was never, I mean, I loved all the sci-fi growing up, and I still do. That's my go-to. If there's a new sci-fi movie, I want to watch it because I love that idea of the unknown and space exploration. I was not the kid who ever wanted to go to space camp. I was not the kid, and that's not who I was. I don't think I wanted. I don't know why. I think it was like I looked at all the requirements from like an engineering understanding. I was like, nah, just
not for space camp.
I don't know. Space camp seemed like
what about the movie Space Camp?
Yeah,
that didn't make you want to go to space camp?
No, it kind of didn't. It kind of didn't. I was like, I don't think I'm that kid.
Yeah,
But
all right.
I have a best friend who lived down the street who was all about like space camp. He's an engineer now. He sort of followed that path. I think if he had his way, maybe he would have been an astronaut, but it's so hard. I think it's very difficult to get to that point. There's a lot of different sort of like specific steps you have to take to even then be in the running to be one of those who is sent to space. So
yeah.
Anyway, it was not my dream. I think I mourn the loss of like total dark, at night. Anyone living anywhere in an urban setting or even close to,
it's got to be pretty dark where you are, though.
Yeah, it is. But you still have street lights. I can find it pretty easily, but it's difficult. It's difficult where we are. I mean, it's a precious resource. I think you and I think we've talked about this in the past, but it's hard to find pitch black areas where we live, where we can lie down on a field and look up at the stars.
And bask in wonder.
Yeah, and exactly that. I mean, I think that's what, that is what spawned all these dreams. And I wonder, like, are we Are we destroying those dreams because we can't even look up anymore and see the Milky Way because there's too much light pollution on the ground? Like, side conversation, side question. We don't need to go
It's because
into it.
my eyes are adapted to my bright phone screen. So even if I do look up, I still can't see anything.
It's so true. It's so true. It's so sad. This is the dilemma of, where we are in society, is like, we are all looking down. We're all just looking down now at our phones, and maybe we're just not looking up enough and
It's
appreciate.
interesting that that's a polar opposite, looking
Yeah.
down versus looking up.
Yeah, very much a polar opposite. So back to this question about, not even a question, but I want to sort of pose the question that, while I'm encouraged by these efforts to continue to explore space, I think it's natural. It's just natural for our species, and probably the evolution of any sort of life on any planet is probably to explore outward. However,
I mean, I think that is like necessary.
okay, so this is what I want to get
However,
at.
yeah.
This is what I want to get
However.
at. And I just had this conversation with some friends. I think it's desperately sad that we look at it as necessary, because we are exhausting resources on this planet and living a way that we are destroying. We are pooping in our bed like a dog, like pooping in our kennel.
Dogs don't even do that.
They don't even do that. They're smarter than that.
Yeah.
And we are destroying this like incredibly beautiful home. And now we're like, well, we're going to have to colonize Mars, which is the dead planet. There's a little bit of water there, maybe, but it is a dead planet. We are going from this gorgeous, beautiful, like beautifully balanced ecosystem where we can live in harmony. And we're just like, well, we know what? We're almost done with all the soil here. We're just going to rip up all the topsoil in the next 60 years. We're not going to be able to grow food anymore. So we're going to have to go grow potatoes on Mars, which, by the way, is also a desert.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that
That's
we can
the best
explore.
option.
That's the best option. That is the best and closest option.
That's
like
a bad sign.
The next Earth available to us, like Earth-like planet, is way too far away. Like, we are so far from having the technology to get to that planet. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. Like, why can we not just take care of this place? And then colonizing Mars is not a necessity, but just a stepping stone to satisfying our inherent curiosity as humans to what else is out there.
All right. So 2 things. 1, something just occurred to me that hadn't before. So that's fun. 2, when I say space exploration is necessary, it also made me realize there's the like practical part that you're suggesting. But I think it is necessary, like, so that people maintain their humanity.
Okay, go ahead. You're gonna have to elaborate there.
What if I forget the other part?
Write it down. Maintain their humanity.
Yeah, that I can remember that one. But so the thing that occurred to me is that you pointed out that Mars is completely inhospitable to life as we know it, whether it is ours or agriculture.
It would appear.
So in that sense, why does it matter if we ruin the Earth? Like, if we think we can be successful on Mars, shouldn't we be able to be successful here once we've turned the surface into like a burning husk of acid and ash?
Yeah, for like 20 people. I mean, we're never going to turn Mars into like a home for 1 million people or 1 billion people, or maybe we will. It doesn't.
I mean, you could, but it doesn't. Under the circumstances, it doesn't. Even if we ruined Earth, it seemed like it would be easier to live in a bubble or underground or something on Earth rather than going to Mars.
Yeah, that. And then I also look at it and go, wouldn't we prefer to just live on the surface of Earth and not worry about, like, is this water toxic? Is the air I'm breathing toxic? Like, we could do that. We could go back to living on a planet that isn't going to kill us because of the stuff we're dumping into
it.
Yeah, because of what we've done to it. So anyway,
I'd throw my hat in that ring.
But I look at the concept of space exploration, and I go, by the way, I don't think that humans as a species are flawed. I subscribe to a like Daniel Quinn perspective, which is we branched 10,000 years ago, and before that, and even now today, there are pockets of humans who live culturally in a way that is in harmony with the laws of nature. Like they're not
Hmm.
wantonly destroying every species around them because they want to grow a lot of corn. Um, we are capable of that as humans, and we were capable of that prior to 10,000 years ago when we became like totalitarian agriculturalists. My issue with space exploration is great. We're just going to bring these same problems. We're going to bring the same civilizational system to the next Earth-like planet and then continue to just destroy it. Like that doesn't fill me with hope. And
Manifest destiny, Ben. Get
exactly
on board
that.
or get out of the way.
Man, exactly that. Like this lie that we've been told our entire lives, and our parents were told to them, and so on and so on, back 10,000 years, that this is the way that we should be living on a planet, like destroying the nature rather than living sort of in harmony with it. It's two very different ways of living. So anyway, I don't want us to bring that problem to the next planet. If we're going to go to the next planet, I want to go back to like, okay, we're
You
just
want to
going,
start over?
yeah, kind of start over, and
Yeah.
not feel like we need to destroy the competition of our food, which is where we are now.
That is where things get complicated, right? Because I mean, I think my interest in exploration in general, um, and space exploration as an extension of, you know, crossing the United States to find the Pacific Ocean or landing in the New World or whatever it is. My interest in that is romantic,
Yeah,
because I mean, I think it represents sort of the indomitable spirit of humanity and like a willingness to put yourself in situations that you don't understand and that you can't predict, um, with the knowledge that you can prevail. Um, I think that's powerful.
yeah.
I think the reality of that we see around us today, and history repeats itself. So I think anyone who is a student of history would be foolish to think that we will not expand into this new space, and bring with it, greed and corruption.
I
Like that's just the system that we have created.
I think that that's a potential. Yes, that's the system that we've created. I don't think we are bound to this thing. I don't
We're
believe that.
not, but isn't that like the topic of every dystopian sci-fi whatever book, movie, where people go to a new planet for a fresh start, and it just ends up being the same thing as what they began with?
Sure, because that's all we know. Like we write those stories because that's all we ourselves know as occupants of this prison, of this civilizational system. I believe it is possible to walk away from this and adopt a way of living that is more in accordance with the laws of nature. Like the
Yep.
examples are right there. They're right out the window. Watch how a fox lives. Watch how a squirrel lives. It's all a delicate balance. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
squirrels. You
Well,
had to bring squirrels into this.
but yeah, so it comes down to who are those people who go colonize that next planet, and what are their, what do they bring with them? What are their goals? I don't.
Baggage. That's what
Yeah,
they bring with
baggage. That's
them.
probably likely what will happen. I don't see the people who raise their hand and go like, we want to start over. Send us. We're gonna do this the right way. I don't see like the NASA's or the SpaceX's being like, yeah, you're our people. Go.
But I mean, you're right. You could do that, and I mean, to some degree, I'm playing the devil's advocate. I also believe that people are inherently horrible, and that
Do you think we're fatally
I said
flawed?
it. I said
Focus,
it.
focus, focus yourself. You're out of focus right now.
How
No,
about now?
you're literally out of focus. Yeah, you're. There we go.
Gonna do this thing with the
You
camera.
you
I can't
think
move around, otherwise my camera gets confused. Okay.
you think we are inherently evil. You think mankind.
I think it's more complicated than that. And if I was a smarter person, I would write a book. Or if I was a smarter, I would maybe just Google that and find somebody else who wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but as a student of history, I can see that people ruin things.
We didn't always used to, Jason. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I think there was a time where we didn't really have the ability to ruin things on a scale that made a difference.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I think like you're suggesting culturally, I mean, gosh, it seems like maybe it's only a nomadic lifestyle that is not incredibly harmful to the world around you,
I,
right?
I,
I mean, I'm thinking about like, you know, like you were talking about, like early tribalism, and
yeah,
where things started to go wrong is, uh, I mean, in the agricultural revolution, where civilizations and societies started to settle in one place. And once you do that and grow your tribe beyond a certain scale, you start to run out of resources. So, I mean, it's seeming to me now that, yes, the entire equation is about resource management. And once you have gone past a point of inflection where you are consuming more than what is available in order to get more supply, you have to do horrible things to other people. You have to go and take it from them or whatever, right?
well, yeah. Okay, go on, continue.
Oh, that might have been it. So, I mean, part of it is like size versus area.
Yeah.
That's my that's my big point. But you're right. Yeah, there was a split at some point, and but those cultures that or societies that chose harmony never got very big.
Exactly.
And then I'm like, oh,
Right, and almost intentionally so. That they didn't. I mean,
they did not live beyond their means.
yeah, there were agricultural um, groups like what you called tribes prior to like the 10,000 years ago that split into totalitarian agricultural. There were agriculturalists, but they just didn't go destroy like annihilate the competition for their food or the competition for their food the way that after, and then they didn't lock up food like right now. It's just a given that food is under lock and key, that you have to work to make money to purchase food.
Yeah.
And that food is and the overproduction of that food leads to population growth.
Yeah, I
A
mean,
natural law of nature.
I've played Civ.
Yeah,
Like
so
that's
and so
required. You
we
need
can,
more food to grow
yeah,
your civilization.
yeah, but then with every growth in population, you are then required to grow even more food, and that just becomes this endless cycle
Right.
until you run out of room or
But so,
resource or
I
whatever.
mean, I think it is, I mean, purely a cultural philosophical thing, is it? I'm phrasing that as a question because it is a question. But I mean, even way back in the day, um, I mean, the Mayans and the Aztecs would war the Aztecs more, perhaps, than the Mayans, with other civilizations around them in order to capture their resources, right?
It's a great question. I have to look at what the intent was. What the intent was with conflict. Was it a resource, like a resource grab? Um, I don't know. I don't have that answer. It stands to reason. It seems like the right answer.
Well, I mean, so to go back to your point, like, is there a way out of it? Yes, we just have to have perhaps more than 50% of the population to agree to a different course of action,
Yeah.
um, which is sort of two separate things. One is you have to get people to agree on anything. And then two, in the society we live in today, you need a, let's call it, majority,
Yeah.
to be able to steer that ship. And the majority steers, and the rest of you are along for the ride.
I don't know, maybe it's a thing that happens all at once. Like we've seen incredible changes in our lifetime happen like in the blink of an eye. Like the taking down of the Berlin Wall was like a dramatic event that just all of a sudden it just happened and things changed. So it can happen in a very short amount of time, like incredible change. But it also could be a case of pockets of people just saying, this is, I no longer choose to live this way, and I'm going to live this way. And maybe it's like this small community on a small piece of land where they're just like, we're going to be, sustainable, self-sufficient. We're going to keep very, good tabs on this little community's population growth, and we're going to live a certain way. We're going to live in harmony with the natural world that abuts up against us, and we're not going to like destroy it. And then that sets an example for others to do the same thing. The problem is just that land is in short supply, one, and two, like most people live in cities. So how do you do that? How do you continue to like feed those people? It's not like there's an abundance of farmland in LA or New York City. Like who's going to grow that food? They're still going to be dependent on, meat factories and the large farms that are growing the corn and the soy that becomes the processed food that is the basis of their diet.
Yeah.
No, it just seems, I think it can happen. Just in my
So you're
head,
saying lead by example.
I think leading by example, like creating these little, like new tribalism, basically, like going back to tribalism. And I think it can happen in small communities, like small towns, small communities can just say, we can do this right here. We can live this way right here. And we don't need to bring food in from the outside. And we can also just say, like, what you contribute, you will be fed. I think it's a revolution. I can't even wrap my head around it because all I've ever known is the way that we live. I don't know how it would work, but it feels like it could.
It could work. And I think what will lead to that change is burning everything to the ground.
That's the same. Yes, that's the same approach I subscribe to. I think it all just needs to be burned down. I get so frustrated over the political system that I'm like, I'm done.
I think
start over.
my practical side that wakes up in the morning and is like, oh, I have things to do today, probably prevents me from getting on board that train.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's true for everybody, right? Like there are these big ideas, but like at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, you have got a plate of crap in front of you that you have to make your way through.
Yes.
And
it all comes
makes
back
it very easy not to care, right? Like you're just trying to make it through the day.
But it all comes back
to
the
week or the month.
What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? What are those things on your plate are there so that you can make money, which we talked about last podcast, is this like arbitrary, agreed upon deceit in order to buy food for you and your family. Like you need to be fed, and you also need the house over your head. All the other stuff that you like in your life, the Oculus goggles and things, like you don't actually need that. And what I wonder is if all of a sudden you were able to either like forage for, hunt for, or grow what all the food that you and your family could ever need in a year. It was just no question you could do it, and you actually didn't need to work that hard for it. Like the original hunter and gatherers, like the original affluent society, they worked like 3 hours a day, and the rest of the time was leisure time. And you had and you had an easy, because they could just, if one food wasn't, readily available for whatever reason, like there were plenty of other options that could keep them fed. They didn't starve to death. And if you could live that way, but it also meant like, all right, maybe I don't get the Oculus Rift, or maybe I don't have all this electricity pumping it, but you reconnected with the natural world and you didn't have a phone anymore. Like I'm envisioning life as almost like a hunter gatherer, but maybe like a little more farming. Maybe we don't have all this like electricity because, we don't want to be burning fossil fuels because that's contributing to the collapse of the ecosystem and loss of biodiversity and the global warming and all the rest. I think that a person would be happier. I genuinely believe that if we were more connected with nature and less connected to something like a phone, which I do not believe truly nourishes our soul, if we all were more connected to that natural world and felt that we were living in accordance with those laws of nature and not just destroying and contributing to the extinction of 20 species a day or whatever it is, like 200 species a day, I feel like we would feel better. I feel like our lives would feel fuller and more purposeful, and we would not miss those things that we surround ourselves with that I don't think actually nourish our souls.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is probably a good time for Ben and I to announce a new membership that we have going. We are going to start a colony, a compound, a cult, you might even call it. So the first 100 callers will get a free acre that we have taken from other people, and we're now going to give to you. And we're going to start over. Sorry, I took that in a weird direction. Yeah, I often have the same thought where I'm like, I feel like maybe I just would live in a cabin in the mountains and have some, comforts like maybe running water and some amount of electricity, and
Yeah.
just like chop
Fish,
wood and
hunt, fish, forage, do a little
Yeah.
growing, and then the rest of the time you're just running through the fields with your kids.
So yeah, right. It's idyllic, but like how long? I don't know. That's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, let's do that and see if that's true, or if after a month and you've eaten all your children over the winter, you're like, I really probably should have thought this through before we went down this path.
It's yeah. It's funny. I've had this conversation, similar conversations with some friends. And it's about the philosophy of this, right? How
Mhm.
we live in this civilizational system versus how that like original affluent society lived. And most of them are like, I don't want to give up what I have in this life. They don't want to give up those creature comforts. They don't want to give up their couch, their Netflix, their DoorDash food delivery services. Like they like those things, and they don't want to give them up. And what do you do? I can't convince them, but I can only say that when I am living more simply, and when I'm out in nature, like just out
Yeah.
there, that is when I feel happiest. But that's just me. I'm just
No,
one.
I
I'm
mean,
just
I,
one
I
guy.
think I agree with you. I mean, I also grew up in Montana, so that when things are far away from me, it feels much more comfortable
Yeah,
than when things are very close.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I don't know. And even we talk about, right, like, oh, should we move somewhere else and like have a little bit more, land where at least the kids can go run around and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, and there's the romantic part of me
yeah.
that like absolutely wants to do that, and then the practical part of me is like, am I just being romantic about that? I don't know.
You have a shop, like you have employees, you have a physical location where you are making things that is your livelihood. Like
That is a complication.
that is a complication. There's no question around that. There's no question about that. Um, the other piece. I mean, we were supposed to talk about space.
Are we not?
Yeah, we are. We are.
Dude, do you see my t-shirt?
I love your t-shirt.
It's my Space Force t-shirt.
It's amazing. It's
Come on.
amazing that that's a thing, that we have a space force. The other, the other sort of mind f is when you start to go down this, what you exactly said first, Manifest Destiny, which was a horrible chapter in American history, because really what it was taking land from the people who are here before us and really exterminating many of them, like just treaties that we then just turned around and like double crossed, like
Well,
wholesale
if you keep them
slaughter.
around, then they're just a bunch of people who are mad at you.
Yeah, wholesale slaughter, like women and children, like absolute horrible chapters in American history. And when I say, go grab some land and do this thing and live this certain way, it's like they played Woody Guthrie's song. I think it was at the inauguration, at Joe Biden's inauguration, if I'm correct. They played "This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land" at the inauguration, and I don't think they played the whole thing, but that song itself, it was amazing to see Woody Guthrie sort of called out, like, this land is not your land. And it was the tribal people, it was the first peoples,
Yeah.
I think, representatives of them who called that out, like, no, This isn't your land. It's never been your land. This is
That's only what the people say whose land it is not.
Yeah, like this is stolen land, and it's a part of our history that we've never acknowledged. Like we don't talk about this.
Yeah.
We touch upon it, like the Trail of Tears I remember talking about in middle school or high school, but we don't go wholesale into how this country was created. There's a book that a buddy of mine has told me to read, and it's on the way. It might even be outside right now. The Indigenous Peoples' History of the United States. And
Mm-hmm.
it is all this. It is everything that we've done. It's the stuff that we don't talk about. And I feel like we need to acknowledge it as Americans, so that we understand what we're talking about when we say this land or our land. And the reason I bring it up is not only just when I think about walking away from this civilizational system and setting up shop on a homestead, like that's an incredible privilege to be able to do that. And also that land was probably once occupied by like some tribal people before we shooed them away.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to return to this thing that was already in beautiful, sort of existence prior to the colonization of America, and thinking about doing that same thing on some new planet. Like, what if we arrive at the
I was
next
going to say,
Earth?
Benjamin, if you're interested, I've got a planet to sell you.
Right?
It's a
Like
little
we would
dusty, but
just go
with a
plant our
little bit of hard work, I
stake.
think it could be great.
But imagine if there is an intelligent, any species there. Like, where do you draw the line? Is it just sentient beings that matter, whose lives matter when you slaughter them? Like we slaughtered the buffalo, we slaughtered bees, like it all matters. So we go to this new planet, and there are maybe like, there's going to be species there. If it's inhabitable and there's water, there's going to be other life forms. And what if there's like a life form there that's intelligent, but intelligent enough to know, hey, we don't need technology. Like we don't actually need to go explore those other things that we see in the night sky. Like we're actually really freaking happy right here, and we've got this really good thing.
We were
And
hoping you
we
guys wouldn't
land,
show up.
yeah, like we land, and we're like, actually, we got this better thing, and we're gonna need to take that. That looks like really that right there by the water, that awesome little thing you have going. That looks really cool. We're gonna take that.
Yeah.
But we're going to give you this other thing over here, and now this whole thing is ours. Like we're just going to do that. I don't want that doesn't excite me. This whole notion of space exploration and exporting what we have going on right now, this civilizational system, to a new, beautiful, untouched planet, or even one that's touched, that doesn't excite me. That's when I'm like, cool. Like it'd be cool. I mean, I love what you're doing, Elon, and I get it, but I don't want to export this version of ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to rationalize those two things. I mean, and we've talked about this before. It comes down to, I think, the fundamental problem is money.
Yeah,
Right?
arbitrary. This deceit, this conceit.
I mean, the fact that money exists means that some people have more of it than others,
Yeah.
and people are always trying to get more of it. And we've also talked about this before, the whole Star Trek model, where like you can just have a machine create anything you want out of atoms and molecules, and so there is no money. Like if you want food, you just ask the machine for it, and we won't get into where that material comes from and all that. But I mean, the point was that if you don't have to spend all of your time trying to get money, you can spend that time on anything else there is to do in life. Um, so even I mean, okay, oof, I'm going to confuse myself here. Tribalism is related to scale. And so I think, what season is The Expanse right now? 4? 3?
I don't know.
I'm on like episode 8. There's a discussion of tribalism, and there is a sort of planetary scale catastrophe. And Amos, who's my favorite character of all time.
Yeah, conflicted.
He's like, look, people are tribal. It is only the size that changes. So before our tribe was our planet. After this thing happened, our tribe is like the people you can see and touch around you. So it's the same arrangement. It is now just smaller.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself is important to recognize, because like, I mean, I feel like right now our tribe is a nation, which puts us at odds with other nations and other tribes. which is also just a conceit. It is an invention that makes people feel more comfortable. I mean, that's the problem with politics, as it's become, tribal. And we also live in an age where I have to be like, tribe is a bad word. So tribe with a little t, meaning a group of people. Yeah, I don't know how we get away from that human drive to be tribal. And then when you tie that in to money, what's the logical outcome of that? Well, you use your tribe against another tribe to get what they have because you need it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only thing that's going to change that is a big philosophical shift. And I think one of the amazing things about space exploration, or any kind of exploration, is in its early stages, there is no money in it. There is only risk.
Yeah.
There is only the unknown, and it takes individuals with the willingness to bear that risk.
Yeah.
And I think that is one thing that makes human beings great, is the willingness to go into the unknown when you don't know what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
You inevitably drag with you the rest of civilization and society. So even in orbital space, right? It was the new world when nobody was up there. And, over the last decades, we have begun to populate it. Our tribe has been putting stuff up into space. Other tribes have been doing it. This creates conflict. Obviously, the worst possible outcome, but the inevitable one, is to militarize space, which we just did, arguably. Also, commercializing space. I mean, all those space people are like, you can't militarize space. It belongs to everyone. You can't commercialize space. It belongs to everyone. So one thing I very adamantly disagree with, I think, are the Starlink satellites that Elon Musk is talking about, the gentleman who started this conversation. I mean, they're putting up thousands and thousands of satellites, which will presumably bring internet to the world, which could be a good thing. At some point, there's going to be money involved, which will turn it into a bad thing. But it's also making it impossible for visual astronomers, both hobbyists and scientists, to look at the night sky and study it, because there's like glitter everywhere. And
it's
nobody
like
likes
sand
glitter
throwing in your eye. Like,
yeah. So we ruined space already. So now we got to find a new place to ruin, is what I'm saying.
I do love the appreciation for that human spirit, that spirit of exploration. And really, it's just curiosity. It's like, what is in that dark place? What is across that sea? There is a beauty to that. There is a beauty to that, to wanting to know, that insatiable curiosity.
And the things you have to figure out and do and make and understand, in order to overcome that adversity. I think that, like you were saying, that's for me, that's what it's all about. Like, that concept makes me happy. That's sort of what my work is about, or what I want it to be about.
Yeah.
On a good day.
There you go. Shining the light into dark places.
Yeah.
Look at you. Just
it is often not that, which I often lament, but that's the dream, man.
We didn't talk about it. I guess Elon's got to be our Maker Minute. Has he been our Maker Minute? How has he not been our Maker Minute? I think he has been.
He probably has. What if we do Everyday Astronaut?
Okay, Everyday Astronaut.
The YouTube channel.
That's a good idea. I mean, look, good luck to him. I think we all want to be alive for the day that we put people on Mars. I think that would be an incredible moment, because of that, all that spirit of exploration we all feel. You climb a mountain you've never climbed before. Someone else has, but you haven't. It's a big deal. Like, that's a big deal. So kudos to Elon. I hope that he pulls it off. I hope that we don't just continue destroying the things that we find in these unknown and now known places. That's my wish.
Well, so that's, I mean, I think the explorer does not have the burden. They might. I don't know. It's like if you were to bear the burden of the people who follow you, you might not go in the first place.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, I feel like I don't know what Elon's intent is. I don't know what kind of human being he is, right? I mean, I think there are people who love him and people who hate him. The whole Starlink thing makes me question that a little bit. But my impression of him is he is just trying to figure out how much he can do, you know, with the life and money that he's worked for and has been given.
Yeah.
And that's kind of also what everyone should be doing, right? Like, how much can I do? How far can I take it?
Right.
Like, what is my potential?
Yeah. What is your purpose? What is your potential?
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's not for everybody, but I sort of understand, because I mean, I have the same drives in me. Like, you know, what can I contribute while I'm here?
Yeah. T-shirts.
T-shirts. That's my jam, baby.
I'm sorry.
Cottonbureau.com.
They're amazing. You contribute amazing doses of nostalgia, and they're awesome designs.
Yeah.
Well,
I have one more thing, Ben.
Yeah,
I know
go
you're
ahead.
trying to.
You know you can say you know those tells. Go ahead.
I got 9 minutes left.
Go ahead. Talk to me.
So you were talking about simplicity in agriculture. So I got Shannon this thing for Christmas called a lettuce grow.
Okay.
It is a vertical farm.
Yep.
For your house.
Yep.
You can have it indoors or outdoors. It's a lot easier if you live in California and it's not all going to freeze and die over the winter. But it's basically a manufactured vertical farm. And part of me is like, I completely hate this, because it's, you know, this, you can get them in different sizes and you can increase or decrease the number of levels you have.
Yep.
So it's like a ring. There are like 6 plants that grow in that ring, and then you can just keep stacking them up. The base holds a bunch of water. It's got a pump. It's got a heater. It's essentially a little hydroponic garden that is completely designed and self-contained.
Yep.
But wait, there's more. And this is the part where the entrepreneur and business model junkie in me finds it really interesting. It's also kind of gross. It's a subscription service, because you grow the plant, and depending on, you know, how you trim it, you know, you could potentially harvest. You don't have to just cut the whole thing off. You can kind of take off the outside leaves and it'll keep growing a little bit. But it's genius, because once that little pod is kind of expired, you just pop in a new one, and they send you seedlings in the mail that are in a little cup with the growing media,
like a K
and they're
cup.
seedlings.
It's like
so
a
they've
K
sprouted.
Cup for lettuce.
It's a K cup for lettuce. You just pop that bad boy in a couple weeks, you got a new plant.
Yeah.
So it is both horrible and amazing at the same time. But I've found it actually very satisfying. And I'm trying to figure out how gross this is right now, to be like, we have fresh lettuces and vegetables and herbs. I'll just go out on the porch and get it. The gross part is like, I didn't have to do any work. Maybe that's gross. I don't know. I will come to terms with that offline. But it's been an interesting sort of process. It is really well done.
Yeah.
It is very much a sign of the times. It is not a throwback. It is like kind of bringing the past into the present. I don't know.
It's a marriage of tech, subscription service, and that yearning for self-sufficiency.
It is, and it kind of hits all the marks.
Yeah,
I gotta say. So if you want to check it out,
I did. I know
exactly
the product you're talking about, because I looked into that, and I was like, is this how I want to, like, grow herbs in my house? But I haven't done it yet. I feel like
But so, I mean, that's the fascinating question: is is this an acceptable medium between not doing it at all and slaving over it?
Yeah. The questions
I'm
I
not sure.
evaluate and have in my consideration for this product were what are the wastes generated from
Hmm.
this thing? And then also what's the quality of the product? And I think in an ideal situation, if I'm growing something, it's going to be
Of
in
the plants
yeah,
or the
yeah, my
container?
ideal, but all of it. The end product, but also the medium it's growing in, and what is nourishing this plant. And ideally, what I've decided is if I'm going to grow something, I want it to be in a rich, nutrient dense soil, and
Yeah.
not like a hydroponic situation. And I don't
Mm,
know what the quality of those seeds are. Are they GMO seeds? Are they organic seeds? I
yeah.
don't know those things. So those are just things that I sort of care about and prioritize. And I understand that you can't always have everything. You can't check all those boxes.
Yeah. Well, I do recommend these for your spaceship in particular,
Oh
or
yeah,
your colony.
yeah,
I mean, so, and I'm sorry, that's actually the tie-in, because when I'm looking at this thing, I'm like, this is space. This is the future.
yeah. What in the man in like the sci-fi stories, the conversations around what is it, generation ships or generational ships, like
Hmm.
ships that are going so far that you're going to have like third, fourth, fifth generations born on those ships. One
Oh,
of the questions that was sort of posited that I had never thought of, my imagination had never gone to, was the environment in that ship. Like you're completely self-contained in the vacuum of space. And on Earth, you could introduce like a new, mutant strain of whatever, and it might run its course but find equilibrium. Like on Earth, things sort of find equilibrium, like everything, the bacteria, the viruses, the pathogens. But in a self-contained unit in the vacuum of space, like one small little change could wipe out your entire food system, and you're kind of helpless because nature will mutate, things happen and mutate. And that unknown scared the bejesus out of me. Like putting myself on one of those ships and thinking Star Trek, like you're fine, everything's fine. Like the scientists are smart and they
yeah.
figured this out, and we've got endless air. But really, there's a lot that could happen that could just wipe everything out in a year. No more food, no more whatever, and that's scary. That's why it's like,
I wish
holy
I could
crap,
remember the movie that concept is in, but yeah,
the generational ship and like
yeah,
equilibrium, and yeah.
and like things go wrong.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy, crazy. So much respect for so much respect for the explorers, for the astronauts, for the folks who will eventually colonize Mars. Holy crap. You guys are the true explorers, like the true risk takers. And you represent the best. I think you represent the best of humanity. That one thing that unites us all is that curiosity and that spirit of exploration. Some of us have it more than others. Some of us act on it more than others, but I think it's all there. I think it is there for all of us. Why
That's
we
where we
watch a
came
horror
from, man. The
film? That
stars.
is where we came from, baby. We are
Oh, well, okay.
stardust.
That's at least where we'll go. How about
Everyday
that?
astronauts is everyday astronaut or astronauts. We'll put
Everyday
a link.
astronaut.
We'll put a
Yep.
link. I'm gonna just throw out Elon Musk as my sort of like sub maker minute. He is a G, straight up. I don't care what you think about how crazy he can be at times. He's a G. The guy is doing it all.
He is, man. He's putting his money where his mouth is, right?
Yeah.
I got to respect that.
Go one last plug. Go check out Jason's Last Starfighter shirt on the Cotton Bureau. It's baller, and then go watch the original trailer for that thing. Also baller,
Yeah.
old
It'll,
school sci-fi, and it'll take you back. Or if you're too young, you won't. You'll just look at it and go, "This is garbage. This is what you guys watched." We did, and
it's
I'm
not
Ben.
even an HD.
It's not an HD. I'm Ben. I'm no expert.
I'm Jason. I'm no expert, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Bye bye.